when somebody starts using the agentic product, the intelligence and context they're actually relying on the agent to do. I think if you do a very good job, I think you could be stickier, at least as a category, because it's very hard for them to go back to like do nothing, because that needs to happen. They need another, at least agentic solution. So it's not all bad, but we have to completely probably rethink the classic SaaS magic number, and cash burn multiples that were all based on ARR, that effectively basically allowed you to spend a little more than you probably should because of your ARR and churn.
You're listening to Unchurned, brought to you by the Gainsight Podcast Network. From the early days of Siebel to the meteoric rise of Salesforce, Chuck Ganapathi and Brett Queener have lived through and shaped the biggest shifts in enterprise software. They were there when CRM was just a 3-letter acronym nobody understood. They were there when cloud software was written off as a fad. And now they're here again, at the center of what might be the most profound transformation yet, the rise of AI agents. In this conversation, you'll hear two old colleagues and old friends revisit their shared history, debate the death of ARR as we know it, and imagine a world where software doesn't just record work, but actually does the work. Hey, everybody, and welcome to this episode of Unchurned. I'm Josh Schachter, your host, and I'm here with two very special guests for today's episode. We'll start with Gainsight's own CEO, Chuck Ganapathi. Chuck, thank you so much for being on the show today to join us.
Thanks for having me, Josh, and Brett. It's great to see you.
Good to see you.
And Brett Queener. So Brett is the managing director of Bonfire Ventures. He is, in my opinion, the record setter of most roles on his LinkedIn profile. If anybody ever has been to Brett's profile, you've got like 25, I think.
Don't I also win for being like the most common host when you can't find somebody else?
I was going to go there next.
I'm like your backfill.
Yes.
Like, yes. Queener's available. Let's get Queener on.
You know what? It's funny because like you, in my mind, you're one of the most successful VCs that I know, and I'm not ingratiating myself here because you are one of the wisest that I know.
You don't know a lot of VCs, apparently.
Yeah, right. I just showed my colors there. No, I do, but you've always got some really wise things to say. I'll just say that. So that is why you also set the Guinness Book of Records with this episode of being the most featured guest on the Unchurned podcast.
Need to come out, like there should be like a 5-timers club like SNL where I get like some chalice or some cheesy jacket or something. Yeah.
Well, I've been bugging the folks in marketing to get us the Unchurned hats, so that'll be in the mail. You'll be the first one, Brett. First one. We just need somebody to approve the budget. Anybody?
I don't know who that would be. I have no idea.
Yeah, you're here to hear. First.
I like your Gainsight hat.
I'm digging it.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. No, it wears well. Okay, so Brett, we had you on the episode for a few reasons here, and Chuck as well. You guys both have very strong, insightful opinions about the world of AI and where everything is going with Agentic. And you both have gone way back, actually. You've known each other for quite a while. So, Brett, I would love for you to explain to our audience. Tell us about the origin of your relationship with Chuck.
Oh boy. My relationship with Chuck is so old that we met when you would use software by getting CDs shipped to you. So our relationship dates all the way back to Siebel, and which was a on-premise CRM provider. It was the fastest growing company in its time. It and Veritas were the two fastest growing companies in the 90s.
I forgot about Veritas, by the way.
Those are the two.
Did you know Nick worked at Veritas?
Oh, really?
Nick Mehta, our prior CEO.
I didn't know that.
I actually met Nick before I met you. He was a CEO of a .com company called chipshot.com.
Oh yeah.
Which he started right out of Harvard.
Yeah.
And then he came to recruit at business school, which is when I met him. Thankfully, I didn't go work for that company.
Yeah.
But he did great after. He went to Veritas, worked for some legendary people at Veritas. And, that's how his career took off. And then he did great. But Veritas and Siebel were back in the day, the darlings.
Together, a very fast-growing on-premise software company in the CRM space. And then I went to Salesforce first.
I mean, it was the CRM company, was it not, back in the late 90s?
It was the CRM company.
Well,
Yeah.
we invented the phrase CRM. People, Mark obviously Salesforce's stock ticker is CRM, but the word CRM was invented at Siebel.
Yes. So when I moved over to Salesforce, the whole idea was to destroy Siebel and trying to figure out which of the folks that I work really well with in the old generation of software, I thought would inject the necessary level of energy and focus into the new era. And so I can't remember. Uh, I was involved in your recruitment. What was it?
You were
2004, five,
to that. Well, actually, so 2005 was the
five.
first
Because
time
you started out
around.
in product. I think you started out in product marketing, right?
Well, actually, if you actually go back in
Oh,
2005, so
industry
I left.
verticals.
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
So the history is a little bit mangled there. But just going back to Siebel days. So the reason Brett and I get along so well is, he's been known as a tough guy to work for. But once you work for him, you don't want to work for anyone else,
Oh,
right? Like that, he breeds that kind of loyalty. And there's so many CEOs and executives in large companies that used to work for Brett, now running big companies or big organizations, that would tell you that they have not had a better boss. And I can tell you emphatically, I've not had a better boss than Brett. And I've learned so much from him. But it actually started with, but he was a tough guy. He's a tough guy to work for back in the day. He was feisty, let's just
Yeah.
say, back in the Siebel days. We
I'm
all
getting
were.
I'm getting Bill Campbell vibes from this. Brett, were you like the coach? Were you the other coach in Silicon Valley?
uh, a little bit, probably a little more Harbaugh.
Yeah.
I think Bill
Oh,
Campbell.
really?
I think people can put up with Campbell longer than they can put up with Harbaugh.
But hey,
I
so
like. Yeah.
I was building this product called Siebel PRM. We used to be called eChannel, but Siebel PRM. And Brett at that time was running alliances for Siebel, working for a guy called Bruce Cleveland. You know Bruce, right? So so we were obviously wanting to dog food the product. So Brett was like, I need to use PRM, Siebel PRM, to run my alliance organization. So here I was, a fresh newbie product manager out of business school, and there's Brett, and I'm scared shitless to go in front of this guy because he's known to like eat people alive. And I go there and we start whiteboarding like what this thing has to do. And I'm like, actually, this guy is good. And he's like, that's exactly what we should build. So I actually just went and built what he was asking for. And that's how we became friends
Oh, I
and
forgot
with
because you
deep
remember
respect.
we had custom built one with
Oh,
Sebastian
yeah,
Rivera. Remember?
that's right.
We had custom built our own PRM for our own use at the time. But yes, anyways, and then Chuck and
So,
I
hey,
worked.
so going back to Siebel, I remember a couple of years ago I read Jeffrey Moore's book. I think it's called Inside the Tornado.
Yeah.
We've had him on the podcast. He's been at Pulse or Gainsight before, and he was talking about the early days of Salesforce, that they would go literally just banging on the drums outside of the Moscow. Is it Moscone or Moscone? I've never known how to pronounce it. At the Dreamforce conferences, and just making a big ruckus and saying that on-prem is dead. What were you? Was that you guys? Were you literally like
No,
there, like parading
no,
in the streets?
no. Actually, I was running our user conference, and then I went to go run marketing at Siebel, worldwide field marketing. We had to go create our own leads because we ran out of partners to sell our own software back and forth. Like what's going on right now with OpenAI, Oracle, and NVIDIA. They're all moving $100 billion around with each other. Siebel invented that shit, okay? And so when we ran out of the partner jams can, and then there was the Crystal Watch stock report. Back in the old days, you just get tons of stock because it was never expensed. We had to actually go create our own demand. This is post sort of like the dot-com crash. So we're running our giant user conference in France, and outside, these people are protesting from Salesforce. And everybody was like, the people that couldn't take a joke were really mad, but like guys like Chuck and I would be like, oh, it's pretty clever. We came over to Salesforce about that time, which was really, I think a really huge inflection point, right? Which was sort of figuring out the best of how we did our functions and ran it in an on-premise world, but reimagining what it would be from an on-demand delivery model. And, I think Chuck and I had a ton of very formative years together in the product organization. There was a weird time when they let the inmate the biz ops guy like me run product. Now I did code in high school, so I am a secret dork.
What language did you code in high school, Brett?
Basic. My first computer was a TRS-80. That's how old I am, right? With the phone on the side. But, we
Just to be
basically...
clear though, I just have to stop you right there. Like you call yourself like the biz ops guy, inmate running the asylum. All I can tell you about Brett is I don't know how many other people that I can think of in enterprise application software industry that have the mix of the understanding of what is a good product, like good product thinking and good go-to-market mechanics. Like I think you call it go-to-market mechanics, right,
Yeah,
Brett?
and
And
there...
that combination, swear to God, I don't know who else I can think of that can be both great at product thinking and go-to-market mechanical thinking than Brett.
Well, I think the
Yeah.
key thing is they're interrelated, right? Like, where companies go poorly is they mismatch what their product is or the footprint or usability or et cetera with the go-to-market function. It's like, don't do that. But anyways, we had a lot of fun, good times at Salesforce, and I think, I say about Siebel and Salesforce, what we had there at both of those organizations that most companies don't have is phenomenal product marketer. Like, at our core, Chuck and I can do many, many things, but first and foremost, we are a storyteller, right? If you want somebody to come and say there's a crack in the ground, the world has changed, you now need to be like this, therefore you need these capabilities, and oh boy, do I have the software to do that. And then to take that and then a go-to-market perspective, make sure the first time somebody in the sales organization at top of funnel, mid funnel, et cetera, sets the competitive frame, validates that frame, and takes out the competition. I would say Chuck and I are very good about that. And I think the other
We
thing...
learned from the master, from
Yes,
Mark. He's a
yes.
master at that.
And then I think the other reality is at Salesforce, my model, and because remember when I took over product at Salesforce, we had one product. It was a mid-market SFA product that was too hard to use for SMB, and it wasn't sophisticated for enterprise. We hadn't completely exposed the platform. There was no app exchange. The API was rickety. But at the time,
Did you know this was I don't know Salesforce's market cap, but did you know this was $100 billion company in the making, or were things
No.
much more spaghetti than that?
Look, no, you never know, because at the company, it's always a shit show, right? But, we do a good job of hiding that. No, but, but at the time, the entire on-premise market wasn't going in any adjacent categories. So I was like, I need business leaders to run product lines and general managers who think like a business. Don't manage anybody other than product people, but are responsible for driving and influencing the entire rest of the organization, to the point that the executive offsites, the PM leaders had to present on the business. And cross-functionally, sales and others would participate. But if we didn't make the sales number or there was a churn number, it was the PM's fault. And so Chuck was, one of those, and he ran, basically our cash cow business, which was the Sales Cloud business, right? And was heavily involved with me. And, we didn't get the platform people to give us an API, then we could have been the feed of feeds and not spend $30 billion for Slack. But really, think about chatter or collaboration within applications. That didn't exist in enterprise software before. Before chatter or Slack or the Yammer, if you had 30,000 people at Cisco in a piece of product logged in at the same time, you wouldn't know. There was 30,000 solitary experiences. So Chuck was heavily influential in driving forward. How do we take this enterprise software and make it collaborative? But anyways, that's how Chuck and I got to know each other very well.
Brett, I want to go back to something you said a minute ago. Commercial time out here for you. I'm a huge fan of your blog, Tales from the Bonfire. But anyways, I don't know if it was the last one. I think it was maybe a couple articles ago, maybe like 6 months ago. You had written something along the lines that product marketing was or a product marketer was the most important role now in the world of Gen AI, right? Was that, am I getting mixed up? Was that you?
What I said was, if you take 3 people in a category, and if the products are roughly the same, if one's the winner versus the other, they have far better product marketing. They just do. And what is product marketing? Product marketing is the ability for you to communicate what jobs you do for a customer that they care about far better than competition. And you either can communicate that and you align your marketing and your product roadmap around that, and then you take out the competition, or you live in a category with 15 different vendors and no one separates themselves. What I said was most companies are terrible at product marketing because what I'd say Chuck and I are good at. In product marketing, you need to synthesize a lot of data, what's actually going on, and then how do I take that and communicate it? Chuck and I were very good. You give us 3 sales calls, we're like, oh shit, okay, I got it. There was no gong. Now we can listen to 1,000 calls, see 1,000 emails, and pretty quickly leverage AI to summarize what's going on. So now synthesis is solved. And then now with AI, there's increasingly we can leverage AI to take that and allow you to permeate that, through all your execution channels, whether agentic or human. And the reality is, the other big thing why it's super important is usually you would release a product like once a year that was, you really would be like, I'm changing how to train the salespeople. It'd be like Dreamforce. And Chuck and I always negotiate. Well, can we show something that's 2 quarters away or 1 quarter away? What are we showing? But like your value prop didn't really change. Your competitors didn't change. That's changing like every 4 weeks. Like I have companies that are native AI companies that grow $20 million a year, and then, oh my God, they got to refine product market fit. So if the rate of change is that high, and it's very important, I tell you how important product marketing is, then how do you make sure every 3 to 4 weeks that people can understand it? Because when I look in the Slack orgs of my native AI companies, it's a little bit of a shit show. They're just releasing stuff left and right. No one has any idea what's coming out. If you ask them what definition of GA is, they laugh at me and they say, okay, boomer, GA, they ask me if I'm using a Comedy 64. So,
Golden
yes,
Master? How about the Golden Master?
the Golden Master CD. But anyways, that was the point around product marketing.
The most successful founding teams that you see right now, those are the ones that are able to roll with the changes and adapt as quickly as possible to what they're seeing in the market and affect their narrative differently.
Yeah, it's not, right? If a customer comes to Chuck and says, hey, Chuck, I'd like you to do this capability. 6 years ago, Chuck's like, well, I got to hire 2 or 3 Scrum teams. And then, if it's important, then I got to upset these other Scrum teams. And we gave them agency. And now we've told them it's not important. And then they spec it. And then we do designs. And then we go do testing. And then dev forgets to ship the designs. And then you buy Pendo or something to track it, guides and the rest of it, blah. The reality is he probably could ship that thing in 3 weeks if he has the data model and has the context.
Yeah.
So it's completely changed.
And I know you're coming out with the new blog soon. Thank you for that. The last one was all about this transformation from software going from systems of record to systems of action. Tell us more. For those that haven't read the article yet, tell us more.
I was being a little controversial. What I was really talking about was, is fixed schema important or not? Because if you look at Lovable, and look, I don't build enterprise apps with Lovable. When you tell Lovable what you want, you don't tell it what fields you want. You don't tell it your data model. You just say, this is what I want. And it will produce a UX, some workflows, and it'll figure out the underlying database or schema that you need. So what I was really thinking about was the importance of fixed schema. And what I really love about the AI age, and I started writing about, more than a year ago, where I was like, oh my God, everything that Chuck and I are masters on is getting blown up, and this is fun. And we have enough context for the old way to sort of really appreciate, oh my God. Because for the first time since I started working with software, I got to business school because I was Jimmy Neutron at a manufacturing company that was working on DEC VAXes, and I had a Windows 3.1 computer, Windows 95, remember the Start Me Up, and I built...
We are old. We're so old.
And I built a CRM database. I built a CRM database in Visual Basic, and there was no email, and I carved off the regional manager hard drives on a zip drive. I FedExed it to him, and by Friday, I would consolidate it. Yeah. So...
By the way, I don't think Josh has heard of half the terms you just said.
Okay, sorry. So, but my point being is, what's really exciting, and this is what I wrote up before, is we are delivering software that actually is super valuable. It actually helps you do your job, or does a part of it, or does the full job of where you have employees doing sort of work today. That's super exciting. And so that changes sort of everything. And so all I was doing in the schema article was retesting this assumption around, oh, as a software vendor, you should buy this software from me because I have this schema that knows everything. But then you have to take it and spend all this time configuring it and hiring consulting to take your context, which is how you run your business, and then go put it in that schema. And I think it's wrong. I think with AI and the rest of it, I can go to Gainsight's website and go, if I'm selling Chuck a CRM, looks like you're a software company. Which segments do you serve? Are you inbound or outbound? Da, da, da. Okay, I assume you do quotes and et cetera. Give me some terms. And then, hey, from a process perspective, you generally want to look at this. And then in analytics, I'm not going to make you create a bunch of dashboards and have 7 friggin' dashboards with 7 meters. Well, what's that say or what to do? I would be like,
okay, we get it. You're perturbed by all this. Yeah. So
that
Chuck,
was the point of the article.
Yeah. So your old manager here, former old, whatever, is shooting daggers at Gainsight, right? I mean, Gainsight, the CSP is the system of record for customer success, right?
I didn't shoot daggers.
Well, I want to get Chuck's take on this.
Look. Okay. So, interestingly, when my first job as a product manager was in 1999 at Siebel. I told you about my first customer was Brett at that time. When I joined the company, there was a guy at that time who used to work on the product that I worked on, Siebel PRM. His name is Arun Balaraman, and now he's at Google. And when I joined, he said, "Hey, you have to write this thing called an MRD, and in that MRD, you have to write, a requirements doc. And I have a template for how to describe the UI that you should build that you can communicate to your engineers. Basically, what we would use today Figma for, right?" And the tool he gave me to draw UI to give to my engineers, do you know what it was?
Microsoft Paint?
Pen and paper?
No. It was friggin' Excel. Just believe that. I'm not making this up.
That's right. You would
because
make a box.
In the Excel, we would make a box for the form, and it had a bunch of fields, and there'd be another form below it with a table, because it was easy. One cell would be the name of the database field. Next cell would be empty because that's where the actual value goes. And so this is how we would actually draw UI mockups. In 1999, as a product manager, my UI mockups were made in Excel. That just goes to show you how schema-centric we were. And in fact, I would give advice to other product managers back then. I said, the most important skill you have to learn when you join Siebel as a product manager. Mostly we hired MBAs, right? Most MBAs had never worked in technology before. I was an engineer like Brett was before business school, so I kind of got it. But for most people, they go through business school, they would join Siebel. And I would say the most important skill you need to learn as a PM is ERDs, right? Entity relationship diagrams of how schemas feels, one-to-many relationships, many-to-many relationships, and all of that stuff. That's how we thought about what software was.
Yeah.
And to Brett's point, if you think about the world as it is today, what we learned from companies like Gong was that actually, if you think about what a deal is, what an opportunity is, it's not a collection of fields. It's the collective knowledge and the collective wisdom of the salesperson, the manager, the sales SC, the SDR, all these people that are working with the customer. It's the stuff that's in their heads. And if you're able to pull all of that together and create one document, the narrative of what's happening, well, that's your deal. That's the opportunity you're working on, not a bunch of fields. In fact, one of our board members in a recent board meeting, here at Gainsight, one of our board members from Vista said, when I described this problem, he said it in the most beautiful way that I really stuck with me. He said, "Oh, I get it, Chuck. What you're saying is that a database is actually a lossy way to store what is happening with the customer. Right? It's not lossless compression. It's lossy compression. It's like taking a high quality picture that you took with your, 150 megapixel camera and making a grainy, JPEG out of that, right? That's what's going on with database. So I couldn't agree more with Brett that I think describing business relationships, customer relationships, what's going on with your customer, in any business, into a database form, I think is the way we did software in the past for the last 20 years. I couldn't agree with them more that it's over. So I don't think of this as like him shooting darts at us.
No, and the fact
We're
is,
not. Absolutely not.
and the fact is, it's not against schema. If somebody's been in schema for a while solving a problem like Gainsight has, which is customer success, if they should have the context, because where's context come from? There's conversations and other data points, and there's structured data. But when you want to build agentic systems, well, it has to speak to context. And
Yeah.
Gainsight isn't SAP. It's not in 17 horizontal verticals. It's not trying to solve 15 jobs to be done, right? It's trying to deliver success or retention as a service. And so within that, you have a lot of domain expertise. And if Gainsight doesn't actually deliver, if I will, the systems of actions or engagement on top of the system of records, well, that would be a shock given what I know
It
about
would. I agree. I'll give you one example to make that real. So the bane of Brett's existence back when he was running sales ops for all of Salesforce, right? This is before he became our chief product officer. The one thing that every new CRO that would join Salesforce would ask, I want all of my reps to fill out account plans. You remember that, Brett? Okay.
You know, and I didn't even care if they were good. I just wanted them to fill it out.
Okay, here's the thing. No rep worth their salt wants to fill out an account plan. No person, no CSM.
You should have seen the schema of that custom object that I got in Salesforce.
Exactly.
Beautiful schema.
So nobody ever wants to do that. No CSM wants to write this big story in a success plan. So you know what we did? The latest. So we've had success plans in Gainsight for many years, and it's used a lot within our customers. What AI has allowed us to do is the latest feature of Staircase, which Brett you will appreciate a lot, having fought with so many salespeople around account plans. Is Staircase will look at all of your previous customer relationships that expanded. So it'll go, we built 3 agents, okay, 3 AI agents that go back in history over a certain period of time, and it'll look at the relationship, how it began, and then how the customer expanded over time. And then using AI, just purely looking at meeting transcripts, emails, usage data, all of that, unstructured data with a little bit of structured data sprinkled in, will find the patterns of at what points which customers become the perfect candidate for an expansion, for an add-on, for a cross-sell. And then it'll go take those same patterns that it detected, apply it to the current context, and for every customer will tell you what is the expansion opportunity. And then it automatically updates the success plan or the account plan. So basically, a human is not sitting around doing the research
plan
and
white space analysis all in one.
everything, all in one. It does all of it, automatically updates it into a document. To me, it's like that is the power of not relying on schema and not relying on human data entry, which humans don't hate doing. Like, who wants to fill out forms?
Yeah. So as you can tell, Josh, I was not picking on my friend.
No, I knew that. I had to sparkle. I had to rile things up.
He's trying to rile us up.
Yeah, you know, I like to pick and probe there. Okay, so we've gone from structured schemas, databases to unstructured insights, and from systems of record now to systems of action, i.e. agents. Brett, you've got some strong thoughts on the agentic world that's here now and that's to come. And of course, all of your startups now are immersed in that. Tell us more. Tell us about, I'm going to foreshadow your next blog article for you. Tell us about agents and the death of ARR.
Ooh, spicy.
I've also put him on the spot to talk about a blog
he hasn't written
yet.
Did you say death of ARR?
Yes.
Awesome.
The title.
I'm going to tell my board I've killed my ARR.
Let's just see how old Josh is. Chuck will get this reference. The title of the blog is The End of ARR, and I Feel Fine. Name the band?
The end
Yes.
of the world as I know
Yes,
it. Yes,
yes.
yes. But I like the death of ARR better. It's more of a hook.
It's the end of ARR, and I feel
You're the
fine.
product marketer.
No, and I feel fine about it. I feel fine about it, not like if I was trying to run these businesses and just, I feel fine because I think when we think about where Gainsight's going with this product, or the product it has, and I'm sure it's the first of much of the evolution of Gainsight, is we're getting to product purity. We're getting to products that actually do the job, which it's funny because if
Did
the
you just
product,
coin something? Did you just coin that now? Product purity? Have you heard that before? I really like it.
I'm just making the
It's
stuff up.
great
But like if you think
alliteration.
about like what Chuck and I are masters at, product marketing, all this stuff.
Speak for yourself, Brett.
In the old world, the gap between the product you shipped and the value somebody might get was so wide that there was all this friction. In fact, I'm not sure there's a Gainsight if that friction doesn't exist. Now,
Yeah.
the fact that product orgs thought that we would have a poor success person that would fill all that gap and it was going to be a magical QBR that was going to solve it, God love it. But now we move to a world where the product actually either does the job to be done well or it doesn't. Okay. So within that, if we now think about that, are we buying software? In a year or 18 months or when, I'm sure customers will say, hey, they're not going to say, what did you buy to solve this customer success problem? They're going to say, who did you hire? Because if we start to think of our products as assistants, like a year or two ago, I would walk into founders talking about AI, and they look at me like, oh, you're some stupid VC with your memes and AI, or customers not asking for AI. I'm like, really? Go to your customer and ask them if they hired somebody who worked 24/7, never go to Glassdoor, never complain, knows everything about the function, and knows everything about your company in 6 hours, and would do these 4 things for you. What would that person cost? They're like, I don't know, like $250K. What if every one of your reps or every one of your CSMs could have that tomorrow, but maybe it was $50K? And they look at me like, okay, I know what you're saying. And so we start thinking of it as our software as an assistant. And whether it's a co-pilot assisting a human or it's somebody who goes and does a job, well, what gets interesting is in the ARR world, now it was ironic. In my story, I chart back when I first joined Salesforce, you rented by the month and you could leave whenever you wanted. Turns out that was hard from a cash flow basis because Salesforce raised in total, I looked this up, Chuck, $18 million in total capital. And back in those days, we had to take money on a month-to-month SMB deal and take half of it and buy Sun servers and put it in the Equinix data center that poor Klaus Bolt ran. Okay?
Klaus
Bolt. Talk about efficiency, right?
Yeah.
And so well, that's not going to work. And so we moved to give us a year up front and do an annual contract. The annual contract was great because then you could predict what your revenue is going to be so you could hire from an OpEx perspective. But now, if we flash forward and you go, if I said to you tomorrow, I've got an amazing candidate for you, Chuck, for $250,000, but here's the thing, Chuck, they want $250,000 immediately when they start working for you. And they're on a 2-year contract. And if they suck, you can't fire them for 2 years. You'd be like, what? What?
Yeah.
And I'm like, exactly. So what's interesting, there's all this talk about pricing and packaging, which is like, oh, are you paying for outcomes? Are you paying for usage? Are you paying for this? But no one's really talking about contract term and contract commitment. And so in this article, what I dig into is why might this be a net positive? What's the negative for how you run your businesses as a software company? What's the net negative? What's the net positive? And what's the net negative or net positive for companies? Now, what's interesting, the assumption would be like, oh, this is a shit show for software companies. And I'm not going to be less sticky and da-da-da. And I will tell you the following, which is different. The reason why people use Gainsight, especially the software companies use Gainsight, it's in the world of ARR, it's all about NRR, right? World-class companies got 89% GDRs, got 130% NRR, no leaky bucket. Then, oh my goodness. And then if you can do that for 7, 8 years, you can last to 50, 100. You can last to a PE exit. Not all of them go public. And so, but you need Gainsight to make sure customers are successful. They don't leave you because they can leave you. Because look, at the end of the day, you're a piece of software that the intelligence using the software is in people's head. They use you, they put the data, they manage the workflows that they set up, or your CSM helped them, or PS, et cetera, et cetera. But the competence, the expertise is in the customer's head. So if they decide to leave your product, there's they either like, forget it, it's not important enough, that's the worst. Like if you're in that category, as we see in the consolidation, the sales tech stack, or like, I'll go use this other thing. In this world, when somebody starts using the agentic product, they're basically outsourcing that intellect. They'll supervise it a bit. They'll start to do the job, etc. And that's no longer a piece of thing they know really well. The intelligence and context they're actually relying on the agent to do. And so I think if you do a very good job, and I think you could be stickier, at least as a category, because it's very hard for them to go back to like do nothing, because that needs to happen. They need another, at least agentic solution. So it's not all bad, but we have to completely probably rethink the classic SaaS magic number, and cash burn multiples that were all based on ARR, that effectively basically allowed you to spend a little more than you probably should because of your ARR and churn. So that's kind of the article. And then I'm getting into then what are the implications then for how do we think about the role of product in success, that sort of, there's a lot more overlap now. The interlap between success and sales, I'm seeing sales success is actually coming much earlier in the sales process.
That's a
What does
lot.
it mean?
That's
What
a
does
lot.
it mean? Yeah, what does it mean from a capital constraint perspective? And then, how do I think that the CS function probably will evolve?
Let's pin that for now.
Better.
Let's pin that.
Yeah.
I want to end on that one. So Chuck, I'd like your thoughts in response to Brett's conjecture here.
Well, I have a lot of questions. I have questions, as they say, because I love it. I think my big takeaway from what you just said, Brett, was brilliantly said,
No, thank you.
is that for the future of agentic applications, I'm not saying agentic platforms, but agent builder platforms. There are a lot of people, Agentforce is an agent building platform, right? So is ServiceNow's platform and so on. But you can build your own agents, great. We're not talking about that business. We're talking about the business of vertical agents, or what we used to call apps back in the day
Sure.
are now vertical agents, right? Like I have a vertical agent for customer support. I have a vertical agent for customer success or adoption or renewals or whatever. And what you're saying is you have to think of these as virtual employees as opposed to applications. And I completely agree with that. You use the word, you're outsourcing that expertise, which then tells me that us as software company builders have to start thinking the mindset. I don't mean necessarily the mechanics, but the mindset of a BPO. Because you have to kind of think of almost like
sorry. Chuck, not everybody listening is going to know what BPO is. Thank you.
But a BPO that could afford to hire really expensive, smart people. Because historically, BPOs, you standardize a process and you put sort of low-cost labor. You're not putting in super high.
No, absolutely. Yeah. What I'm saying is the BPO is business process outsourcing, right? So if I want to outsource a call center, I can go to a BPO and they'll say, oh, you want a 50-person call center? We'll set it up for you. And it'll be in an offshore location, therefore cheap. Or SDRs. You can go, we in fact use an SDR outsourcer that you have your in-house SDRs and then you have an outsourced SDR team that's kind of like your like your team, but sitting at another company at a different location. But the way you described what you just said is you're kind of outsourcing to this company, the vendor, the software vendor. But the software vendor doesn't have humans sitting and typing, calling, emailing. It's agents doing the work, whatever that work is. So it is an agentic BPO.
Yes, and what the interesting thing is, the reason why these AI companies are valued higher is that if you can do that, they're going to pay you more for that because you replace that payroll spend. So so you don't get to get more and get annual contracts up front.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. The very simple math that I typically use is, let's take an average employee, and the average employee is, say, $100,000 OTE, just making that up, just from easy math. And let's say you buy a piece of SaaS software to make that employee more productive. Okay. And let's say that software makes that person 20% more productive. So what's the value you've created? On the 100,000, you've created an additional value of 20,000.
And maybe you get
right?
two. And maybe you get two.
And you get two,
Right.
and guess who keeps the 18? The company.
Right.
So as a provider of the technology that just gave you 20% productivity, the economic rent, as Robert Smith, our CEO of Vista, calls it, is $2,000 out of the $20,000 productivity gain you have. So you keep 18. I, as the vendor of the technology, keep 2,000. So I basically got, a very tiny portion of the economic value I just created with my technology. Now flip that book and flip the page and look at the agentic BPO kind of idea. Now let's say this is a job that there's nobody doing or it can't be done, and you have to hire, again, if you were to spend for a human, it's $100,000. But if this agent can do that job, whatever that job might be, now let's say you say, I want, you instead of you paying $100,000, you pay me $20,000 for the agent doing the job. To the vendor, the benefit that's accrued is 20% of 100,000. So massive amounts of value creation for the vendor. Now you have to deal with things like, well, the contract terms are different, and you don't get paid up front.
The one thing we haven't figured out is like, well, I would have to hire 10 people, and you don't need 10 agents. So that's the tricky one. Like,
I understand that. So my question to you, Brett, this is the question I was going to ask you. The math makes sense, right? Like the value creation, if you simply have a mindset of an agentic BPO, not that you are you're not a BPO, right? Like you're a technology vendor. But if you have the mindset, then you start to think very differently. But my question to you is, how the heck do I price this thing? Because I'm not going to go and say, yeah, it's 20% of $100,000, because you'd be like, well, you're crazy, because I know you're using, this is not a human. And this person can, as you said rightly, this agent works 24/7, 365, right? So how do you price this?
I think it depends on, is it an outsourcer that does the same level of quality of the work as a human, or significantly better? And the more that it's significantly better, I get closer to charging $100,000 as opposed to 20.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the answer yet, Chuck.
This is the question. Yeah.
There's a pricing and packaging one we're going to wrestle through. I think the thing for me, remember you started at the beginning that we were product purists. And, to some extent, Chuck and I both left Salesforce because we were such purists on product that we're like, oh, this is not the way to do it, honestly. I mean, ironically. I think for me, it brings us back to product purity. Like, your product either does this job really well and the customer can see the value of that, or it doesn't. And the good news as an investor, I think zombie SaaS companies disappear. Like now I know why Vista's investing so much in AI labs, because like the old PE model where I'm just gonna not invest in the R&D and just take the revenue streams. Like, no, that revenue could completely go away. So anyways,
Vista's all in on the agentic factory. But Brett, you've always been very forward thinking. You've actually always been a pretty good prognosticator of the future. So at what point do you think the market becomes more comfortable with charging 70, 80, 90, 100% of what that displacement cost is?
I'm already seeing it. And where I'm seeing it, interestingly, is, so I invest in companies really early. Like, I was with the founder the other day, and they gave me their pitch. They were in some vertical solving this problem. And then they thought the TAM of the market they were in was too small. And so they pitched me that this problem I solve, I'm going to do this horizontal problem for all industries. And I was like, I'm not investing in that. But you just lost your context.
Yeah.
And the founder was looking at the TAM in the market and what people spent on software.
Yeah.
As opposed to, how could you leverage AI and software to run those businesses better? And if you started to look at that, the TAM was 10x. I'm an investor in the legal AI space. And you're like, what the hell? What are all these? Every day a legal AI company raises $100 million. I have a company that's gone from $0 to $20 million in 2 years selling software to lawyers who never used software before.
Because they don't have to pay for paralegals. It's a fraction of the cost of whatever
No,
they're paying.
it's not that. In the end of the day, they got to hire less paralegals. Like law firms in the past, they only have X amount of lawyers, X cases. There's this whole thing where they get cases and they refer 50 to 60% cases to other firms because they can't handle them.
They can't handle
And
capacity.
there's a whole VIG system that goes around, and you get emails like, "Oh, dude, I only outsource 10% now because I use your software. I can immediately understand all the nuances." Think about lawyer. You get all these medical records and cases and et cetera. You're up all night trying to figure it out. Well, look, if I can extract that schema, build a database, and then put AI on top of it, I can give a lawyer case intelligence pretty quickly and understand that on page 131, it looks like there was something wrong with that guy's neck that was missed. Da-da-da-da-da-da. That lawyer who bills it $2 to $5 million a year in med mal, but if it's mass tort, they may make $200-300 million.
Yeah.
It's
They-
that's
I
the
love
way to
that.
think about it, right?
I love that example. Basically the lawyer becomes a 10. You've all heard of like the 10x engineer, right?
Right.
That goes to work for Google.
Yeah,
Now every profession can be this can be a 10x lawyer,
Yeah.
right? You think about our world of CSMs. People go, "Oh, wait a minute! All this agentic stuff, is that going to take away CSM jobs?" I think that's just the wrong way to think about it. Because if you look at CSMs today, and Brett, you know this well, because I think, did you not manage the first CSM team at Salesforce?
I did not manage. I was involved in their creation.
You helped create that team, right? So you know a lot
I
of the
didn't run
people.
it. That was early days. I think it was Phil Barker.
Phil
and
Barker, right?
And I think the famous Brian Millham was
Yeah,
early on doing
yeah.
that. Yeah.
I think you may have set their comp plans though,
No, I
back
did
in
set their
those
comp
days.
plans, yeah.
So you know all about the creation of the CSM team and how that's evolved over the last 13 years with Nick and the early Gainsight team that really legitimized the profession, brought CS to the forefront, made it a board level topic, gave CCOs a seat at the table, like amazing. Now, if you think about that world and that CSM job, basically you're a jack of all trades. You know, you do a little bit of technical support, you do a little bit of commercial discussion, you do a little bit of chasing the cats internally, working with the product team. You're basically jack of all trades, right?
Yeah.
With Agentic, what I think you can do, if you think of this as like outsourcing the work that no CSM wants to do, no CSM goes into the job thinking, I want to be a jack of all trades. I want to do admin work. Nobody does. They want to be strategic. They want to be a partner to the customer. They want to add value to the customer. But you spend all of your day doing all the scut work that nobody wants to do. But what if you could outsource it to an AI agent that's not going to complain? That's not going to go to Reddit or Glassdoor and complain about this admin work. It's just going to do it. And you pay fair share to the vendor of that provides that agent, or the agentic outsource, if you want to think about it as that. You go from being a jack of all trades to the master of your craft. Because at the end of the day, the CSM wants to be the master of their craft.
Well, the other
and they just can't do it.
The really exciting thing for a CSM, in the end, we always would say, did the company achieve the outcome that they wanted to achieve? Was there an ROI analysis that we did at the sales process up front? And have they done it? Well, nobody. The guy who used it to justify the deal internally at the company never used it again when to be held accountable. So how is a CSM supposed to have an outcome discussion when we basically have sold seats or licenses and you track usage and DAU and WAU as success? And these are as signals. What becomes very interesting for a CSM is if the product is agentic is doing a job and all the manual work is done, then CSMs can actually have customers and say, these were the jobs to be done that you set out to do. These were the outcomes. How are we doing on that? What's working? What's not? Oh, did you also know, in our product, the agents told you, I don't know if it told you, there's these other jobs it could do for you that you already paid for, or these other jobs you haven't done. Are you interested in doing that? I think we actually have changed the framework for what the software is supposed to do so that now you have a strategic CRM that outsources all the garbage work, but what were they going to talk about? Well, now we can talk about outcomes. That's kind of a fun job.
It's a fun job. And that job already exists. You go to a consulting company, or you go to an outsourcing company, there's a name for that. They call them client partners, right? These are, go to Accenture, they're called client partners. The client partner has exactly that discussion with the client. They go and say, hey, how are we doing? How are our project team? How's our project team working for you? Are you getting the results you wanted? All of that discussion that a client partner at Accenture has, now a CSM can have. So
Well,
you
the
truly,
other really good thing that the CSM also doesn't have to do,
yeah,
they don't have to log all the damn feature requests of what's going on and then beg for dev to go look at it and get prioritized. Like, I was talking to Todd at Pendo, they have a session replay product where PM can look at, go, "There's this bug 4 times. Oh, it's upsetting people." Then I have to go decide what to go do. Well, he's doing an integration. Once we all solve for auth on MCP and not, create injection issues, it just goes and sends the code to Cursor. Like, this stuff's gonna get fixed. And, like,
amazing.
right? You've got some PDX things that summarize what the issues are, so they don't have to do that anymore. So I think it's an exciting opportunity for,
Huge.
future customer
It's
success
huge.
folks. Yeah.
It is 10x. I agree.
Let's leave it at that. This was a great episode. Chuck Ganapathi, Brett Queener, 2 wise guys. Thank you so much for being on the episode. Brett, we'll see you next year for episode number 4 with us. And we'll make sure you get the hat for that.
I'll have something else written by then, Josh.
Can't wait for the next one.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Josh.
everybody.
Good to see you, Brett.